The power of woman. The power of woman. The power of woman. This statement is still not understood properly by women or by men. We're going to be focusing on understanding the nature and the assignment of the female. Understanding the nature and the assignment of the female. I want to begin with a few statements which have to do with the challenge of the 21st century woman. It's tough to be a woman today. Very difficult to be a woman, a female. It's even more difficult to be a male. And that's why most males want to be women. You'll understand that in a little while. Why is it so difficult to be a female today? Let's take a look at a couple of thoughts. I believe that the most difficult challenge that a female faces today is the fact that she is living in a world designed for men. This goes all the way back. I think you can go back about 50, 60 years when this really hit at the height. When James Brown, the famous singer, wrote a song. This is a man's world. And that song captured the attitude that most men had toward women. Matter of fact, one of the common statements they made was, know your place. You all remember that? And sometimes they told you where your place was. Where was that? In the kitchen and in the bedroom. In other words, there was such a graphic negative attitude toward women by men that even when men had company over, they told their wives to, leave the room. And this was in the Western world. We're not talking about the East, where it's even worse. And so this spirit of a woman being caught up in this world that men created placed women in a very difficult position. Most of you women are still trying to survive and to emerge from that, still struggling with that. A lot of men are having crises right now because men don't know what to do with the new woman. Because the world is no longer a man's world. It's changed since World War II. It's very important to understand that, ladies. Secondly, the 21st century woman is pressed on every side to be everything to everyone all the time. It's tough to be a woman. Actually, today, they want you to be a man and a woman at the same time. They want you to work and also be a homekeeper. They want you to have babies and raise them and then pay their tuition too. I mean, it's incredible. A woman has so much pressure. It's difficult. And then thirdly, the average woman is confused and insecure about her purpose and her role in life. And that's a real problem. Because some women are not sure what it is to be a woman anymore. And that's why many of them are experimenting. What does it mean to be a woman today? Now, I must also balance this by saying it's worse for the men. Because the men are in such crisis, the men are your greatest problem. Because the men don't know what to do either. They're not sure what it is to be a man anymore. The average man in this country and in my country and in the whole Western world is struggling with his true manhood. He doesn't know what it is to be a man. You remember that about 40 years ago, it was very easy to be a man. 60 years ago, it was automatic to be a man. Because the roles were very clear. He goes to work, you keep the house. You have the babies, he buys the food. I mean, it was very clear. And that's why your grandmother didn't have a divorce. There was no divorces back then, because the roles were very clear. Everyone knew where their place was. The man place was out working, woman was home, keeping home. And then the man bought the home, the woman cleaned it and kept it. The man bought the food, woman cooked it and served it. It was very simple. Matter of fact, most women and men at that time didn't have a problem with one another because there was no competition and no contention. The man knew where the woman was all the time. She was home. And she knew where he was. He was out laboring. As a matter of fact, it was so tough to survive 60 years ago that everybody had to keep their roles clear. It was simple to be married and to love one another. Matter of fact, your grandmother and grandfather did not really express love the way you express love today, because they didn't have no time to do it. He was busy working 10, 12 hours a day. By the time he came, all he wanted was food, sex, and bed. I call him the caveman. You know, caveman coming. Sex, boom, finish, boom, sleep. Caveman. And you know, the woman back then didn't complain. Why? She understood. He worked all day, he was tired, she had his food ready, she fed him, had sex, went to bed, he's happy. Next morning he goes back out in the forest, on the jungle of life, and worked for her and take care of the kids. And so she actually respected him because he did that. He worked hard. And she was respected by him because he knew she took care of the kids and the home and everything. So they respected one another. There was a high respect for them, each other. Their love was based on their roles. She loved him because he worked so hard to keep the family together. He loved her because he took care of the home. She took him home and took care of the kids, and he appreciated her cleaning his clothes. I mean, there was this mutual respect. And then something happened. World War II came. World War II changed the world in ways we have not calculated yet. Remember, World War II came, the Western world got involved in the war, and hundreds of thousands of men in America went to Europe to fight, and went to Japan and other areas. And what happened? The men used to work in the factories, but now when the men are gone, then the women, the factories were kind of quiet, and so the women were asked to make bullets, and to, instead of sewing, they had to learn to make tanks. And if you study the history of America, that's when women began to leave the home to go out and work for the war machinery. Are you listening carefully? So the men are in the battlefield, they left home. The women now have to go and make the bullets for the men to use in the guns. So women began to leave the home because of the displacement of men. And what happened now, you have, after the war was finished, 1945, the war is finished, the men come back home, and there's no one home. Where is she? She's in the factory. Guess whose job that used to be? His job. So now he comes back with two problems. One, the home's empty and she has his job. Problem, she's now earning revenue. So now we got three problems, because he used to provide everything. That's why she respected him. Now she's making more than he's making, so the respect has dropped. Thirdly, they used to need each other. That's why your grandmother and grandfather never got a divorce. They needed each other. Matter of fact, if she didn't mention leaving, his question would have been, where are you going? She had no money, she had no support, so that's why she stayed. That's why many times, 60 years ago, a woman may be abused by a man but never leave. She had nowhere to go. There was no other support. So she stayed. She made the marriage work. He made the marriage work. But now we got a new equation. We got women out working now. We got men displaced and they're not sure what to do. And back then, a man's manhood was measured by simple things like he builds the house for her, he earns the food, he brings home the bacon, he pays the utilities, he takes care of the kids as far as their maintenance, and he protects the family. And it was clear, that's what a man does. She was very clear. What she did was she kept the house clean, she kept the kids in order, she cooked the food, and she took the money and distributed properly. But now here comes a new equation. He comes home, and today it's still being felt. He doesn't know what it is to be a man anymore. I mean, women, and it's not your fault, please don't think it's your fault. It's what happened to our social structure. So now we have men today, since World War II, don't know how to be a man. Now your grandfather told you, boy, you want to be a man, put your foot down in your house. Your answer is not my house. Some of you get it later. See, when a woman meets a guy today, he's in trouble. Why? First of all, she owned her own house already. She got her BMW. She got money in the bank. She looking fine. She got a refrigerator with food in it. And then she says, I want you to be my man. And the guy goes, okay. So how do I be that? And she says, take care of me. He said, okay, I'll buy your house. I got that. I'll buy your car. I got that. I give some money. Got too much of that. I'll buy some food. Got that. So how do I be a man? Don't know. Just be a man. See the problem? So he's frustrated. So what does he do? The only thing that he has left that you don't have is his strength. So the result is domestic abuse. That's the one thing he could always say he could give you that. It's very serious. He physically abuses you. And that's why domestic violence is so high. Because we got a male in crisis who is frustrated at misunderstanding what manhood means. Because you see, in the past, womanhood and manhood was measured by the roles that they played. But now the roles are gone. 40 years ago, the man brought home the bacon. Today, the woman owns the pig. Am I right? What do you do when the woman makes more money than you? Men fall apart. They don't know what to do with that. They don't know, well, how am I supposed to feel like a man if you make more money than me? See, and he feels this crisis inside. And that's why it's important for you to come to a conference just to learn not only that that is happening, but what do you do about that? And whether the way we measured womanhood and manhood is the way it should have been measured. Let me just say this very quickly too, that nowhere in the Bible does God ever tell a woman to cook. It's not in Scripture. In other words, matter of fact, here's a surprise. In the Bible, if you study the Bible carefully, the men cooked. Uh-oh. Matter of fact, if you want to marry a good man, first question, can you cook? Very important. Do you remember when Isaac was about to die? This guy's on a deathbed. Now, you know, when someone's dying, they want the best meal. Isaac was married, but he said, look, I don't want you to cook, baby. I want your son to cook that soup that he cooked. It was the men that cooked. I would tell men, if you really want to follow Jesus, you got to learn to cook. They look at me strange. I said, well, let's study it. How many men want to be like Jesus? They always hold their hands up. Want to be like Jesus. I said, good. Then study Jesus. Jesus was a cook. You remember when the disciples went out fishing after the resurrection? It says he cooked fish and bread on the shore for them and fed them when they came in. See, he cooked boiled fish and Johnny cake. Real men cook. Say it with me. Real men cook. You go home and tell them that, all right? So see, what I'm trying to get you to understand is that the roles are being confused with the purpose. A woman is not a woman because she cooked. It's another way to identify your womanhood. A man is not a man because he brings home money. Matter of fact, if you study the scriptures carefully again, this is very weird for some of you to understand, but in the East they still do this. The men actually stay in the tent. The women go and take the sheep and goats out. It's reversed. The men stay home in the Middle East. The women go out and become shepherds. Very rare to have real men as shepherds. You know, some of you think that men are always shepherds. Not necessarily. Most of those cultures, the women are the ones that go out and watch the sheep because the men stay at home in the tent to protect the treasures of the tent. So, historically speaking, the man's place was in the home. Some Some of y'all looking shocked. It's getting quiet in here. That's why you're here, because I want you to understand that staying home doesn't make you a woman. That's still a role, you see. You're confusing the role with your inherent purpose. And that's why we're here tonight. I want to show you from the Bible what the purpose of a woman is. It's going to blow your mind. You are an awesome creature. Awesome creature. First of all, the female controversy is a big one. And that is the role, the position, the rights, the privileges, the expectation, and the relationship of the female in our society is our biggest argument. How much power should a woman have? Should a woman be a leader? Can a woman lead? Should a woman be the head or not of a home? Can a woman lead a company? I mean, people get, should a woman be a preacher? Should a woman be a pastor? All these confusing questions people have about women. And mostly it's men who got those problems with women. Some societies have even gone to the extreme